Hey everybody, it's Emily from ARG Schooling, and today I'm going to talk about spooky reads for the month of October. So it's October, and for me that means everything creepy and scary, and I like to share that stuff with my kids because I like to scar them for life. I have books for all ages that I want to show you. I'm going to start with Littlest Children, and well, I don't like to go too crazy with the scary for small kids. I do have this one series of books that are just so fun. The first one is Runaway Mummy, and these are all parodies on classic children's literature. So I have Runaway Mummy, which is obviously a parody of Runaway Bunny, and Goodnight Goon, which is a parody of Goodnight Moon, and this is like a monster tucking its child into bed. It's really cute. Frankenstein, a monstrous parody of Madeline, and it's just hilarious and adorable, and these are just super fun for Halloween. They're always favorites with my kids. Next up are the reads for like the middle grade age. To start with, we have Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark by Alvin Schwartz, and this is a lot of short stories, poems and songs and such, and some of them are scary, like straight up scary. Some of them are silly, scary, and some of them are just weird. But my kids have always enjoyed going through this. You can see it's very well loved. It's kind of the Velveteen book, but these are just really creepy, fun stories for them to tell each other, for just to read something kind of creepy. I have two graphic novels. One is Bone by Jeff Smith. This is actually a series, but we only have the first one. And it's about these guys who are bones, and they go on this adventure and meet lots of weird people. There's dragons. It's kind of, this borders on fantasy more than scary, but it's still creepy and fun, and my boys really enjoyed this. I also have Anya's Ghost by Vera Brosgol. I've only read part of this. I just started it a few days ago, but my daughter read this a few months back and she really liked it. It's about a girl who is of Russian descent. Her mother's a Russian immigrant, and she has a hard time fitting in at school, and she befriends this ghost and mayhem ensues. And it's all about what it's like to be the outsider, but also, you know, there's ghosts, so it's kind of creepy without being like outright scary. Then of course I have two Neil Gaiman books. I have the Graveyard book, which I really enjoyed when I read it last year, and my boys really liked it. My daughter really liked it. So this is all about a little boy who is raised by ghosts in a graveyard. He has been dropped there or brought to the graveyard, and he can never leave because if he leaves, someone will come after him and try to kill him, the same person that murdered his family. So there is the aspect of murder, so I wouldn't read this with a very young or very sensitive child because his family was murdered and he has to stay in the graveyard or he will also be murdered. And it's about how he grows up. It's kind of coming of age, and it's got all kinds of weird, ghastly, ghostly beings in it, and it's just really fun. I'm currently reading Coraline with my children right now, also by Neil Gaiman, and this one is about a little girl who discovers a doorway to another world where everyone is the same it's like a mirror image on the other side, except they're not. We're only like just about halfway through, and it's creepy in a good way. My daughter read this when she was younger and was totally petrified by this book, and she really found it terrifying. And my boys are really enjoying the creep factor, and it's just a really fun story. Another fun book I want to recommend is Nightmares by Jason Segel. Yes, that Jason Segel. He is an actor, but he's also an author, and he wrote this story with Kristen Miller, and it's just really fun. We read this 2 years ago, I think? Yeah, year before last, as a read aloud, and it's about a boy whose nightmares start coming true. He lives in this house and there's something going on and he doesn't understand what's happening, but everyone's nightmares start happening for real, and he has to learn to face his fears, and it's just a really great story, and my boys loved it. And there's a sequel that we haven't gotten to yet. I have it, we just haven't read it, but I'm expecting that the sequel's probably just as good as this book. And now, moms and other adults, these are the books that I would recommend for teens and up. So these are just good for adults and mature teens. So I'm going to start with classics, and I'm going to start with Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. This is the original Frankenstein, the classic tale about what happens when science goes too far. It's a really great novel. It is not scary in the sense of like ghosts and monsters and things, more in the sense of what happens when science goes too far. Like, what do you do when you've created something that has now come back to get you? And it's a beautifully written story. It's very flowery. I find Victor Frankenstein kind of whiny, but other than that, I really like the story. And of course I have Dracula by Bram Stoker, the classic horror. You really can't go wrong with Dracula. It's very eerie, very creepy, and I really love this book. And now for the more modern reads. I cannot do a video about scary books without some Stephen King, and this is my favorite Stephen King novel. It is so good. This is so scary, so eerie, so creepy. There's so much, there's everything. There's jump scares, there's like the 1950s Wolfman type horror. There's just very disturbing scenes. It's good. It's so good. You can't go wrong with this book. Classic Stephen King. And I'm going to recommend The Girl with All the Gifts by M.R. Carey. This is a twist on the zombie genre, and I am not generally a fan of zombies as a whole. I mean, I watch The Walking Dead, but I watch that more for the people that are still alive, more so than the zombies. But this is such a good take on the zombie genre, and it has a crazy twist at the end that you won't see it coming. And it's a slow burn, but it's so good. I really, really like this book. And then, of course, you know, it's a parody, but the Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. I love Pride and Prejudice. It's one of my favorite books, and so of course I had to read this, and it's so fun. It's so much fun to throw zombies and all that mayhem into Pride and Prejudice. It's so much fun. And then if you want a really, really creepy book that isn't necessarily anything to do with horror on the whole, but more just like really disturbing, I'm going to recommend Unwind by Neal Shusterman. This book freaked me out. In this world, there was a civil war in America between those who were pro-life and those who were pro-choice, and they compromised in order to bring peace back to our nation. And this compromise was that you could not get an abortion. Abortions are completely illegal. All children must be brought to term, but at the age of 13 until the age of 17, if you have any issues with your child, you can then have them unwound, which means that they are legally taken apart, basically, and used for organ transplants. And their entire bodies are dismantled. So they're not technically dead because their body parts are all, you know, in use. And so they're not actually killed per se, but they are certainly not alive. So anyhow, this book is freaking disturbing. It is so creepy. And there's more in the series, but I haven't brought myself to read them yet because I don't know, it's disturbing. There's a scene in here of a child being unwound, and it was the most disturbing thing I've ever read. And I've read some really scary books. I've read a lot of Stephen King. I've read a lot of just horror. That was the creepiest thing I've ever read. I had to stop reading for a minute and take a breather because I was just like, what did I just read? So yeah, this book freaked me out. If you want something disturbing, I would recommend this. So those are some of my spooky favorites that I would recommend for reading in October. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in my next one. Thanks for watching. Happy reading. Bye.